Is starting an animation project really worth the time investment? In short, I believe that it is, and I'm going to explain why and also some tips on starting and sticking with a large-scale project. Hello everyone, my name is Leanne and I do all sorts of art here on this channel. To someone who hasn't animated before, a 3-minute short doesn't seem like that big of a project, not until they realize that you are drawing every single one of those frames, designing backgrounds and fleshing out a story, not to mention all the character design that goes into it. It's a huge energy investment, especially if you're like me and doing all the aspects of the project by yourself. I think that the project can seem even more colossal if you haven't done an animated short before. It's a little daunting to really commit to something like this. It can also be scary because once you tell someone you've started this super cool project, there's pressure to finish it. This can be a pro and a con. I personally don't like this sort of pressure and prefer not to tell people my big projects until I know that it's something I actually will finish and I have a little bit more to show for it. This way, if I have an idea and it's not working, my skills just aren't there, or I get busy, I don't need to explain myself. Now, this could just be my introversion talking. Sometimes that sort of pressure can be good and motivating to finish something, especially if you're not the type of person who often finishes creative projects. I know some people really like the support of other people and their curiosity on how the project is going. For example, I shared bits of my animation here on YouTube to keep me accountable, but I only shared those pieces once my animation was out of the baby stage and I could see myself actually completing the project. When projects are in the baby stage, they go through a lot of revision, so I don't like sharing it until I at least can tell where my project is going. That way I don't have to tell people that I've changed my idea 100 times. Though you may not want to tell everyone your grand idea when you first think of it, it is still a huge reason to start an animated project. Sharing your stories with people can be one of the big whys to creating a short. In my opinion, it's the biggest why. If you're an animator, chances are you have some stories to tell. That in itself makes the whole project worth the effort. I think stories should be shared. I think that's a large part of being an artist, to show people something. Even if the purpose is to just show people something beautiful, it's still a good reason. Creating a large-scale project, as silly as it sounds, can also just prove something to yourself, that you are capable of creating something that takes so much work and that you are more likely to be successful completing your next large project. Or at least that has been my experience. Now, if you've only ever worked on run cycles or turnarounds, maybe jumping into a 3 to 4 minute animation isn't the best next step. I worked on a 1 minute animation before moving on to 3 minutes. I find that it just helped me get a little bit more prepared. Having the self-discipline to finish a long animation once the initial spark has died takes some practice. Talking about self-discipline when I have put off this video for a week now. For me, the passion starts to die around the middle of the project. More accurately, around the middle of the line art stage. It does eventually come back if you are able to make the project more engaging again. When I was working on Hiding in the Blue, there was a point where I was just avoiding the project because I had gotten to some scenes that I just couldn't be bothered with lining. I don't know about you, but line art is so boring to me. I was burnt out on black outlines. One thing that helped me from completely abandoning the project was to stop working in the most efficient manner. I know, don't you want to do things that would speed up the process? Yes, but hear me out. For most things, working assembly line style is the fastest way to complete something. For animation, that's do all the storyboarding, then all the in-betweens, and then all the lining, and so on. This is technically faster than perfecting every single frame, but it's also great for killing the project's passion. They are called passion projects, aren't they? So, what I would say to do instead, when you're feeling exhausted by monotony, is to just work on one scene at a time. Once you've completed the storyboard, which is usually the fun part, just getting your idea out of your head, then start mentally breaking your animation into sections. They can be as big or as small as you like. I chose to count every time the camera angle changed as a section. This freed me to be able to bring each piece to completion or almost completion depending on what effects needed added after the animation was done, I would still use the assembly line style, but only one chunk of my animation at a time. Doing this allowed me to work on a different part of my project every time I sat down to work. One day I'm lining a scene, the next I'm coloring it. It keeps me engaged, and I was still making good time on my project. Another thing you can do to get yourself back in the groove is to just watch an animated movie. I really recommend 2D, but if you aren't into that, you can watch 3D. They always make me want to do some kind of art, and you can direct that energy into your animation. There are some gorgeous animated movies out there that can really help you feel more creative. I recommend looking for an animation that has a more interesting art style that isn't your basic sort of Disney feel. Something like Song of the Sea or something from Studio Ghibli. I think all of them have such beautiful backgrounds in them that can't help but make you want to animate. And if all else fails and you've taken a break from the project, sometimes just scrapping it and moving on to another idea is your only option. Not all projects will be finished. It's just the way things go sometimes, and that's okay. But I definitely recommend giving it your best effort, because once the project is done and your story told, you'll feel so accomplished. For me, whether it's received good or bad, I'm just happy I've finished something. I think sometimes as artists, we tend to get excited and start a project, only to get partway through and come up with a new idea just to leave the other one in the dust. So I think when we actually make ourselves go through the hard part of the project, go through the ugly stage, whether it's an animation or a big art piece, I think it can help us grow more as artists and also just give us a sense of accomplishment and pride in our work. Now, I won't lie, you may also feel a little bit sad or lost after completing something that has consumed so much of your time. I often feel a little misplaced at the end, but just take a break, get back up, and create more awesome things. Alright everybody, see you in the next one. Bye!